My new thing is, I'm using SuperCool and Famous to like the edge of its capability every day. And I'm working with literally the developers that are updating SuperCool. If you guys ever get logged out of SuperCool, it's because we push a new update like every I don't know, every 6 hours or something. So sometimes you'll get logged out, but it is what it is. That's just because we're improving it all the time. So one thing that I've been doing lately, if you guys notice, we started uploading a lot more to our YouTube channel. And our YouTube channel, it's kind of crazy because some is ads, some is organic, some is comes from ads, and then people. So like every day I don't know if you know this, Terry, but we get like over 30,000 views a day on our YouTube channel, which is kind of crazy.
I didn't actually notice that. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
now listen, if you look at our last 5 or 10 videos, they might have like 8 views or 12 views or something. And you never know what pops, but in aggregate over the entire channel, there's actually a lot of views every day. And that's kind of the game of YouTube is you just kind of post a lot as best as you think in some niche and some pop, some don't pop, some pop later, whatever,
You
doesn't
got to
matter.
do the right keywords in the titles and
Yeah,
subtitles.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Ironically, like we've been doing some business summaries that we've sort of turned over from Kafka, kind of repurposed from Kafka, and those are doing pretty well. But anyways, one thing that I wanted to do, and this is kind of a lot of business is about solving your own problems first, okay? So if you're really good at something or something you care about something a lot, right? And they are you often care about that thing and you do a lot of it because you're trying to solve your own problem essentially, right? So like for example, the reason why I started writing because there were certain styles of writing that I really liked and I didn't really find anything contemporary that was that style. And so I'm like, oh, let me just write something in that style myself. Like I was kind of like writing the book that I wanted to read. If that makes sense. This is like early in my writing career. And I think the same thing applies to business, where you're trying to solve your own problem and then you come up with some method or, become kind of a master or an expert, if it's to some level, at that thing. And then you try to monetize it, or Naval Ravikant calls it productizing it. And you productize your knowledge in some way, whether it's a software, an app, a course, a consulting, a service, or digital, in person, whatever, entertainment. And you you can create something out of that. Okay. So I'm just going to give you my personal problem is we are going to build a studio and an office in San Francisco, right? And I'm going there in 2 days. I'm leaving on Friday, and our CTO is already there, and he's been looking at different offices, and I think Alex is going tomorrow. And so we're going to meet there and we're, going to sign a lease and we're going to have our offices, but we're also going to have an event space. Any of you guys are coming to the event on the end of January, we're going to have the event there and we're building a podcast studio and we're building a regular studio. And, it's going to be a big thing. And we're going really hard on content this year. And that's going to be one thing that I'm going to be in charge of this year. And so in order to create, I promise this is going to be relevant to you guys. I'm going to teach you how to do a podcast with SuperCool. Okay, that's the punchline. Punchline is I will teach you how to do a podcast with SuperCool. But I'm explaining to you my thought process or why I've gotten here. So the problem that I have is that if we're going to do content, we need to do content in extremes. Okay. So this is important for any of you guys who are trying to be influencers or create social media for yourself. There's content that are really good content is either evergreen. Okay. By evergreen, it means like an evergreen tree, right? It's like the leaves don't fall off in the winter, meaning that it kind of stays the same forever. So, for example, if any of you guys watched Terry's lesson yesterday, which is a great lesson, it's going to be up on YouTube today on the cognitive biases, right? And so this is like deep psychology, right? Or the six influences by Robert Cialdini. Like these things will still be applicable because they're deep in our amygdala in 100 years. They were applicable 2,000 years ago, and they're applicable 1,000 years from now because they're deep psychology. Okay, so this is called Evergreen or the soft skills of of business, right? So like things like leadership or hiring the right people or incentive structures or the basic psychology of marketing or the basic accounting mathematics of an income statement. These things are evergreen. So you can read a book on the income statement of a business from 400 years ago, and it's mostly going to be applicable the same as it is today. Maybe the only thing is, we're a little bit more loosey-goosey with debt because we're off the gold standard. But other than that, mostly everything is going to be the same with an income statement. Okay. So there's this evergreen content, meaning that people will search for it and need it forever. And it it will be applicable in 10 years. So someone watches the video 10 years from now. Have you ever watched like an old Tony Robbins video or listened to like an old Tony Robbins book? I always listen to books, but that's just how they're still kind of applicable because they're these like meta lessons, right? But also on social media, you want to be the trend that started yesterday. There's some trending music. If you put something up online about, your opinion about what's happening with Venezuela, like it's probably going to get a lot more views. Why? Because there's a massive demand and very little supply. Because the ability to have an opinion about something in your niche versus having an opinion about something that happened yesterday is a totally different level of skill, right? So news is this never-ending cycle. So there's always a new trend, there's always a new software, there's always a new update, there's always a new something that happens, okay? And for you to be an expert in your field, to build your brand, you kind of want to go in the extremes. Is everyone following? You want to do things that are like now applicable, okay? And you also want to do things that are forever applicable, are evergreen. So the closer you have to this happened yesterday or this happened 2 hours ago, right? If something big happens 2 hours, think of it like a river, right? Think if something happened 2 hours ago that's like global or has a large TAM, total addressable market. A lot of people are going to be talking about it. There's a race because the demand is so high for that type of content. There's a race for the demand of that content to the supply of people talking about that content. Everyone following? So, for example, with books, okay, my theory for how we're going to be approaching books are going to be the great works that are studied at universities and high school, okay? Shakespeare is going to be relevant in 500 years, I'm sure. But also, what book came out this week? What was published this week? You see how those are extremes? Because a lot of people are studying Shakespeare, okay? And a lot of people are excited about what's happening presently. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're going to start creating a lot of content around technology and AI and business owners and that sort of thing, things that are happening right now. Okay. And in order for me to create content about things that are happening right now or keep up with what's happening right now, I need to educate myself on what's happening daily. Okay. And so I started messing around with SuperCool. I don't know if you guys have, kind of used this feature yet, but I was asking SuperCool what happened in technology today. Okay. So I'll kind of show you what I was doing here. Can you send me a daily audio report of what's happening in the tech world? Okay. And so I was messing around with all sorts of different ways of approaching it. And it did, I'll just kind of follow you. What it did is it started doing deep research. Okay. So it started looking up things that were happening literally just in the last 24 hours. Okay. So it's going through the web and it's checking out all these different resources. You see that? You see this? TechCrunch, The Guardian, BBC, some China company, more TechCrunch, right? And then it's summarizing, okay, this is everything that's happening in the world, is doing all of the steps, da, 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 da. And then it comes up with a report on what's happened today in technology. Okay. And then I asked it to turn that into an audio with a script. Okay. And I listen to it for myself. I'm solving my own problem. Okay. How do I keep up? There's all these things that are happening in technology. How do I keep up with it? What if I want to go to the gym? And by the way, I looked at Bloomberg Tech, I looked at Wired, I looked at TechCrunch, I looked at all of these different places, and nothing has kind of a comprehensive technology podcast that I need. Okay. I'd have to listen to like 3 hours of all these different things and then kind of it doesn't synthesize it the way I want it to. So instead of going to all of these different sites every day, I just said, well, let me just create one for myself. And then another level, I said, well, if I'm going to create it for myself, maybe I should create a thumbnail for it and just upload it to YouTube. Okay. So let me go to YouTube and I'll show you what I created here. So this I created, and the
Welcome to
thumbnail I
today's
also
30
created
AI
with
News Deep
SuperCool.
Dive. I'm your host, and we've got a packed show covering the biggest stories shaping technology right now. From NVIDIA's massive announcements to robotics breakthroughs, AI quality concerns, and the autonomous vehicle revolution. Let's dive.
So this is a 20-minute basically podcast that I created with SuperCool, including this thumbnail and the thumbnail of the actual and this thumbnail as well. Both the square in the middle and this thumbnail were created with SuperCool. So I all I did is, and we can do this for anything. Let's say, I don't know, give me an idea or like some niche. Give me a niche. And you guys can do this, by the way, if you guys want to create a podcast. Okay. Business consulting is a little too vague.
indie movies or indie horror movies or something.
Indie horror movies. Okay. FinTech, art. These are all a little bit too vague. Indie horror movies. Okay. I want to create a podcast about indie horror movies, and the industry can be scripts, reviews, trailers, what's coming out, actors, etc. What should it be named? Give me a few suggestions. Okay, let's do this together. We'll just come up with a podcast today. Okay. Shadows and Celluloid, The Midnight Circuit, Under the Radar Horror, The Crimson Reel. I kind of like The Crimson Reel. Indie Screams, that's good too. The Horror Underground, that's good. I'm just gonna go for it. Okay, let's do The Horror Underground. Give me 5 different podcast thumbnails for this podcast. Should be squared. Can we use different languages like Japanese? Yeah, Sheena, just, I mean, test it. I don't know Japanese, so I can't. Alfie, just click this right here. Click the stop button. It'll stop it. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. I'm just going to show you guys real quick. So this is what we're going to do. Okay. So we want podcast in our industry. Niche. Okay. What works is evergreen content, but also brand new daily, weekly updates. Those are like you want to go to the opposite extreme. Okay. And what do you need? You need a name, some art cover, first episode, and the first episode is this is idea, research, script, audio, thumbnail. That's what you need. This is what you need to do in order to create a podcast in your industry or niche, right? Come up with the industry or niche, choose some evergreen content, name it, art, cover art, and then get your first episode. This is all you need. You just need to get something going, okay? Oh, that's kind of cool. A podcast of cult and B movies. This is kind of good. I like that actually. I like this one. I'm gonna download it. Oh, that one's good too, though. These are all pretty good. This is crazy, guys. Man, when I did my first book, like hiring someone to do just this, or like giving you like 5 different versions of this, like 10 years ago, would cost you thousands of dollars. Totally insane. Okay. Okay, let's do a few episode idea. No, let's do a what happened this week in horror episode. Do a bunch of deep research on the industry and what's happening. Then write a 10-minute podcast script for episode 1. Kickstarter pre-launch help. Ink AI images of the product. Alfie, you got to use a complete sentence. I'm not sure what you're saying. So what it's going to do, by the way, this is what Perplexity is. Perplexity is like what's the valuation of Perplexity? Like $10 billion or something. All Perplexity does is basically deep research. It's like a competitor of Google. And SuperCool does the same thing as Perplexity. It's kind of shocking. It's like you don't need Perplexity anymore. SuperCool is going to destroy the world, man. We're just getting started. We're like 10 weeks old. And we're already doing what Perplexity does. I'm so proud of the team, honestly. And thank you guys for being like, kind of with us while we're building it, you know. It's like being, whenever you're on the absolute cutting edge, it's like there's always going to be, so the advantage of being on the cutting edge is that you're on the cutting edge and anything, you're doing things faster and easier and cheaper than everyone else. The downside of being on the cutting edge is the technology is like often not quite there. It might be a little bit buggy, you might get logged out, there might be some update, there might be, whatever. That's in any industry, like can it help develop a Kickstarter pre-launch guide program? Yeah, I mean, it can do. Alfie, have you tried it and it didn't work? I'm not sure I understand your question. Just ask it to do what you want it to do and then see what it'll do. It depends on what you mean by program. Do you mean like videos? Do you mean like a course? Do you mean a book? Do you mean like this program is too vague. Alfie, the way to learn about the platform is to use it. So whatever you want, this goes for everyone. You want to see if it does something, do it. You know? How does it work if you build a website? If you're building a website, you should do it on Famous. Did you build it on Famous, Catherine? It automatically, the hosting is automatic. So if you just click the publish button in the top right corner on Famous, like if you're building something on Famous, like let's say this is something that I was messing around with. And if you click this button, publish here, it's published. And then you can change the domain name if you want, but it's automatically published. You have a, okay. Okay, let me see what happened this week in horror. Welcome to the Horror Underground. I'm your host in this episode one of your nuclear. Oh, nice. This is great. Okay, that's great. Please make this into an audio podcast. It should just be one file, one audio file. Okay, so it wrote a script. It did research on everything that's happening this week in indie horror. Okay, it wrote a script, and now I'm telling it to create an audio file of it. Okay, does it make sense? Joanna, we are like guinea pigs for you. Yeah, I mean, but okay, if it makes you feel any better, there's like 50,000 guinea pigs, so it's not it's not like it's not like you're the only one. But that's true. Like you're all guinea pigs of like, Gemini. You're all guinea pigs of ChatGPT. You're all guinea pigs of like, like Waymo. You see like Waymo technology, like self-driving cars. Like everyone that's using a self-driving car is a guinea pig of self-driving cars. It's like this is applicable to anything that happens ever. Any technology that if you're a first user there's going to be more bugs, but you also have the advantage of being a first user. Like think of like the very beginning of Instagram. You know, you know how you can do all kinds of crazy stuff on Instagram now. You can like edit the videos inside of Instagram, and you can add links, and you can add stickers, and you can add GIFs, and you can like do a automatic video replying to another video, and all kinds of crazy stuff on Instagram. Like that didn't exist on Instagram when Instagram started, right? But the people that started on Instagram, the first 6 months of Instagram, if they stuck with it, had the biggest following, right? Like those, what's those like sisters, those two TikTok sisters? What are their names? They just danced. I mean, that's what TikTok was, right? What are their names, Terry? Those two sisters, the Mali or something. They're kind of Italian, like Damalia or Damalia.
yeah, I can't remember. And then there was the
Uh,
other girl as well.
You know
I
who I'm
can't
talking about.
remember
Anyways,
anything.
they're like gazillionaires and they're like, and basically they were crazy all in on TikTok like the first month. So, TikTok didn't have TikTok Shop, it didn't have sharing, it didn't have any of that stuff. But like, if you're first, you're first. So there's always, so it's building the audio right now.
And
Lately,
Sheena,
Gemini 3 is having reputation for writing well. Do you think SuperCool has the same quality of writing? Sheena, we use Gemini. Yeah, Sheena, that's a good question. So SuperCool is not its own LLM. SuperCool has 3 layers of LLMs that it uses in order to do anything. So that's kind of like, we kind of coined this term synthetic intelligence. What synthetic intelligence means is that there's a like executive level decision maker, okay? And then the executive level decision maker will do project management, hands it off to a project manager. And then the project manager will choose which tools to use for which projects. Does that make sense, Sheena? So we like SuperCool uses Gemini 3 when it feels like it should. Does that make sense?
just to be super clear on that, when he's talking about project managers, he's talking about like AI, SI, agentic agent bots, not actual people.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happens if you give SuperCool an assignment, okay, you can see it's doing like what is project management, right, guys? Like think about, you guys are a business owner, you got a big team, right? So you say, hey, I don't know, we're gonna create a podcast, okay? Well, what's gonna happen? you're going to say, okay, well, what do we need to do in order to create a podcast? And so you're like listing out the big assignments, right? And then you might have someone, and this is what you'd have to do a year ago. You're like, okay, well, first we have to come up with the idea. Okay, then we have to do the naming. And naming is like a creative director or a copywriter or a marketer or something like that. But just the naming is that. Then you say, okay, well, now we need a brand image. Okay, so then I need to hire a designer, right? Okay, now I have designer. Well, let's tweak it a couple times. Okay, cool. Now we have what we want. Okay, now we need to have a research assistant, right? And the research assistant is going to do all the research. Okay, now we have all the research. Let's hire a script writer. Okay, let's hire a script writer. Okay, now let's hire a voice actor, and the voice actor is going to like do the audio. Okay, cool. Now we have the audio. Okay, now that we have the audio, let's hire a social media person, and the social media person is going to put it all together so that we can post it to social media, and then we're going to hire an assistant to actually. So you see how that's like 7 different people. So the project manager is the person that keeps all of that organized because the voice actor is not gonna, they're like, hire me, I'll do my voice acting, here's your file, go, good luck. Like the voice actor is not gonna make the podcast, right? The graphic designer who's hired to make the thumbnail is not gonna be the one posting the social media necessarily. This is like years ago, right? So you have project managers, like middle managers, that keep everything organized and they make sure that everyone's hitting their deadlines. That's what a project manager is, right? And the executive is the person that's like making the final decisions. Is this good? Should we be doing this? Should we be doing that? Right? And then the individual task person, like the writer may decide, oh, I'm going to use, Google Docs, or I'm going to use Microsoft Word, or I'm going to use maybe AI to help me. But it's like, which AI am I going to use? Am I going to use Gemini? Am I going to use ChatGPT? Am I going to use whatever? So all of these things these are required in order for anything complex to get done. Whether it's a human or AI, there is no alternative. It has to happen, right? And so if AI is going to do it, it has to do that. It has to think, what am I doing and why am I doing it? And let me do all these subtasks and let me break it into steps. And then let's choose which tools I'm going to use for every step because it's not using, right? So I asked it to do research. And to doing the research, this is like a web browser kind of Perplexity style tool, right? The graphic designer is probably using Nano Banana, to be honest. Okay. So this is using Nano Banana, most likely, is my guess. And then this quick reasoning, this is called quick reasoning. It's probably using OpenAI, is my guess. And then the script is probably using Gemini or Claude. Does this make sense? So you're seeing it use, you don't know that it's using this, but it's using Nano Banana. It's using a Perplexity style web crawler. It's using a Gemini script writer. It's using an OpenAI like fast answer thing. And now it's using 11 Labs, which is like the main API for audio. Okay. And then it's because if you've ever used 11 Labs, if you give it like 30 minutes of audio, it's going to screw it up because it can't, the tokens kind of get messed up and it hallucinates. So it's better. I don't know if you've ever used 11 Labs, but it's better to do it in chunks. Okay. So SuperCool decided that it should do the audio in chunks. You see what it's doing? It broke up the script in chunks. It's like, okay, let me do the first 2 minutes. Let me do the next 2 minutes. Let me do the next. It's not doing that on accident. It's doing that because it wants the quality to be good. And it knows that 11 Labs, if you ask it to do 20 minutes, it's not gonna work. Does this make sense? So it's smart. Okay. So
The Horror Underground, Episode 1: What Happened This Week in Horror. Welcome to the Horror Underground. I'm your host, and this is Episode 1 of your new weekly deep dive into the world of indie horror cinema. The films Hollywood doesn't want you to see. The directors working with passion instead of massive budgets. The stories that keep you up at night. And I'm not just talking about the scares. Every week, we're going underground to bring you the latest news, reviews, festival buzz, and industry insights from the indie horror scene. So dim the lights, grab your headphones, and let's dig into what happened this week in horror. Segment 1, the big stories. Let's kick things off with the biggest story shaking up the horror world right now.
this is crazy. So
Really?
we went from, Jonathon giving 10-minute introduction on as typical, as to why we're doing this and the philosophy behind it, to brand new industry. We don't know what the hell it is. I don't know anything about indie horror, to researching what's happening this week, to writing a script, to turning it into a bunch of audios, to giving a finished audio, and we also have the thumbnail. So we have our first episode. Does this make sense? Like it's already done. So now the question is, you could just upload this, or you could take it and you could say, well, I want the script to be different. I want it to be longer. I want it to be more like this. I want the whatever. That's you're the boss. Do whatever you want. It can't read my mind because I didn't even tell it what I wanted. I just kind of, made it up. Does that make sense? And I don't have a good, no, excuse my language, but I don't have a good bullshit detector in this industry to know what's good or bad, right? So I'm going to listen to this and it's probably going to be fine, and I can upload this with with one of these as the as like the main thumbnail, and then you're off to the races. Like, okay, great, but give me a YouTube rectangle thumbnail for this specific episode. Make it relevant to what is covered in this episode. So I'm going to ask it for a YouTube thumbnail, right? So I have the Spotify thumbnail, but I'm going to ask it for a YouTube thumbnail as well. Catherine, when writing a screenplay and wanting it in final draft format, can it do that? My first go-to wrote it its own way. Also, final draft, we don't have an API specifically for final draft, Catherine, quite yet. That's like so niche, obviously. I'm just coming from the writing world. I know what you mean by final draft, but it'll give you it'll write it in a screenplay format and then upload it to Final Draft and kind of reformat it like however you want. But it'll give you the traditional way that a screenplay is written. It'll do that for you. Also, can you use photos you want to use in your thumbnail instead of an AI image? Yes, but it's going to be a little tricky. If you go to edit, you can kind of like start editing this. The easiest way to do it, guys, honestly, and we're working on this editor. So there's, fine tuning and filters, and you can kind of mess around with, there's like a basic editor, pretty good to be honest. But the editor is not, the craziest thing in the world, so you can kind of mess with it as you want, You might still have to use maybe another tool to kind of to give it the final polish. And also, I don't know if I explained this to you guys, but what we're doing with SuperCool is we're building apps on top of apps. So like if you're doing like a movie or anything to do with video, we're going to have like a, video editor on top of it. And then we're going to have a graphic editor and then a document editor and a music editor and that sort of thing. So we're building kind of apps on top of SuperCool. But again, SuperCool is 10 weeks old. So, we can only go so fast. But anyways, this is pretty cool. You have the podcast episode. You have here, give me a YouTube description and title for this that is SEO optimized. So I'm just now it's realizing, oh, it's asking for text, right? So now it's going to give me the title and it's going to give me the description. So now I have the title, I have the description, I have the thumbnail, I have the audio, and if I wanted to upload it to Spotify, I also have the thumbnail for Spotify as well. Oscar, I submitted a 30 plus YouTube link because the interface would not upload my MP3 and some pics to generate an animated PBS story. Cartoon didn't work. Should I break the? Yeah, you should. Yeah, always break it up into shorter amounts. Oscar, this isn't really us, by the way. Like, if you try to do this with ChatGPT or Gemini, it's going to have the same problem. It's more of a context window issue in terms of memory. It's kind of interesting though. There's some new chips that are coming out, and just the good news, guys, is that like this is the worst it's ever going to be. This is like the first iPod. Like this is where we're at. You see this? Like this is where AI is compared to like the iPhone. Like the newest iPhone compared to where we are right now, this is where we are. So, if you're like, why can't this with this iPod, do my banking for me? It's like, well, your iPhone can now, but it took 15 years of development to get there. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. It's not anything that's wrong with like super cool. It's just sometimes like this is if the best AIs can do it, we can build it with super cool. But context windows, basically like working in memory is kind of a difficult task. The closest thing to like really long context window is Notebook LM by Google. It's pretty good, but it synthesizes and does like really extreme pattern recognition. So even with Notebook LM, it's going to summarize things and it's not going to give you like you can't say, hey, here's this thing, change this one sentence because it doesn't even really read it in that way. It like contextualizes everything and creates a pattern summary of it. And so that like hyper editing, you still might need to use like a video editor, like Adobe or something. It is what it is. Welcome to Horror Underground, your weekly in this episode. Look, it has the timestamps. Yeah, very cool. Mentioned in this episode. Yeah. This is great for SEO. This is great. Yeah, love it. Love it. You have everything you need. So we just launched a random podcast. So my point is, guys, is that you can do this for your industry or your niche. So you can say, oh, what are like the main evergreen things? What are the top 50 or 100 things? Which, by the way, if you don't know what those are, it's like just ask SuperCool. Hey, I'm in the B2B lead gen space. What are 50 podcasts that I should do that will still be relevant in 50 years? Like what are the evergreen topics? And then write scripts on each one, create audios for each thing, upload them to YouTube and social media and wherever you want. And now you have this great foundation where when people are Googling you or they're ChatGPTing you or they're going on AEO and they're checking out the name of your business, all of a sudden you're like this expert because you have all of this content, podcasts, social media, YouTube, all this kind of stuff that's very, very good, very, very high level. And you can do it with super cool. Like you can upload, as many as you want today. Like gun to the head, I could upload 20 episodes by midnight tonight. You see how fast I do it. Let me read some of this. Frenchie, you still have my iPod. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My wife does that too. Do you guys have like a wires drawer where like you have
Oh yeah.
You're like, oh, but I might need this. And you're like, you
Oh, I was
definitely
just gonna say it's next to the man drawer with a bunch of shit in it that you'll never use.
never, ever, ever use. Yeah, Notebook LM is good. So I can upload images. I mean, again, Ben, yeah, you should try it. The memory's getting better and better and better. It just depends on what you're looking for. But at the end of the day, like, you guys should just try everything. Like, I try things, it doesn't work. I prompt it a different way, it works. Like, it's, again, Super Cool is not trained for anything. We didn't train it for anything. All we're doing is we're giving it tools and kind of directing it and being like, this is how you should think. We're kind of teaching it how to think, but we're not teaching it how to do anything because anything that we're not hard coding any specific thing because if we try to tell it this is how you should do this thing, in 3 weeks there might be something that comes out that makes that irrelevant and that's actually bad. Does that make sense? So
Sam Altman says the same thing about OpenAI. He's like, "Wow, I didn't, that was incredible they did that. I had no idea that it could do that,"
yeah,
which is
yeah,
kind
or
of
and
scary, but kind of
oppositely,
cool.
you try something and you're like, it should be able to do this, and then it can't do that, and you're like, oh damn. And then you try it a different way, and you're like, oh, okay, it can do it if I do it that way. We're all learning here. Like it's not like we don't even really understand the AI code that's being built by Supercool. Like we really don't. Like if you listen to podcasts by Sam Altman, or any like really high end AI guy, they're just kind of connecting things and observing. They're like it's kind of like a scientist. Honestly, it's kind of like medicine. Okay, so if you ask why enough, no one knows shit about anything, right? Like you ask a chemist, you're like, well, why does this medicine, you know, work this way? And you're like, well, because when we do it, it does it. And you're like, well, why? And you're like, well, because this chemical bonds with this chemical and then it da da da. And you're like, well, why is that bond like that? And you're like, well, because electrons. And then you're like, yeah, but why are electrons there? And like, I don't know. Everyone, it ends up just being like, I don't know. And you like either believe in God or you just don't like, we don't know really. And so it's the same. There's too much complexity. There's too many variables. So all we're doing is we're saying, hey, here's some tools that we suggest. Here's how to think about things. Here's the best memory that we have possible. And we're kind of just like I'm learning new things about it all the time. You should see our developer chat. Our developer chat, these are the guys that are actually developing the software. Think about this. The developer chat is like every 30 minutes, someone's like, hey, I tried this and it didn't work. Can we make it work? Or like someone saying, hey, I tried this and look, this is really cool. I can't believe it did that. It's like that's what we're doing. Like that's all it is. It's kind of funny. Okay. I mean, that's really all I wanted to teach today. You guys should all, if you guys want to do a podcast, or even if you want to just keep up to date yourself, like that's, just like I was trying to solve my own problem. I'm like, I don't want to read Bloomberg and TechCrunch and BBC and The Guardian and CNN Tech Space and the Seven podcast and All In and this YouTube channel that's talking about blah blah blah. Like I didn't want to do any of this. I'm like, just you do it. Give me the top things that I need to know. And I was talking to my wife about it. I'm like, I think I'm gonna just make my own podcast for myself and then share it on our YouTube channel. And every morning I'm gonna listen to it like on my run. I'm just gonna do it for myself. And then I'm gonna happen to upload it onto Famous. But I'm really doing it for me because like I want to know what's going on in tech. And I didn't really have to in Madrid, but if I'm in San Francisco and talking to, founders and VCs and people that are using our software every day, like I need to stay up to date with what's happening. So, okay, lesson number one, if you solve your own problem, you could probably monetize it. Lesson number two, if you want to learn anything yourself quickly, use SuperCool. Lesson number three, you can create podcasts in any industry so fast, it's shocking, which means that if you don't have a podcast, make one. And
Yeah.
it's good for authority, it's good for conversion rate, it's good for SEO, it's good for AEO, it's good for everything. It's like it's good to have one attached to the name of your name or the name of the company because not a lot of people do it.
Yeah, so, exactly. Like to go off that, start doing it now before, in 2 years' time when everyone's doing it, you'll be 2 years ahead of them, right? Because people aren't using AI and platforms like Supercool in that way yet. So do what Jonathan's doing to get you, especially if you're building your business, your personal brand, whatever it may be. Just content, 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 relevant content. That's the way to do it for sure.